to Minnenwanka, land of history and mystery. Now, let's kick things off, shall we? If you look at the left-hand side of the vessel in Cascade Bay, we're kind of going by a nice sandy beach. Everyone see that one? We're just going by it now. Now that beach, on a nice sunny evening like today, looks like a great spot to sit up in a chair, maybe have a few drinks, enjoy the beautiful view of Lake Minnenwanka, right? Well, now that we're past it, you can't see it, but on that beach exists a white sign. It's about this big. Now this sign is a warning. No, it's not a warning about the animals in the area, although we do have a lot. It's not a warning about no swimming or anything. That sign says, if you're caught by Parks Canada setting foot on that beach, they'll march right on down to you and hand you a fine of up to $20,000. Not exactly the souvenir you want to bring home to Lake Minnenwanka. So you may be wondering, why just that one beach? I'm allowed to go literally anywhere else along the shores of Minnenwanka, except that one area. Why? Well, it's all because of these guys right here. Now, this was made by man. Are there any guesses as to what it might be? No guesses? Good guess. He's got it. This is Clovis Point Spearhead. Now, in the 1970s, University of Calgary was given permission by Parks Canada to go back over to that beach, perform an archaeological dig. And they found hundreds of these guys in the sand, in the soil, all over the beach. After further research, they knew it belonged to the Clovis people because of the unique etchings in the head of the spear. Now, it's theorized, and I say theorized because it's not totally confirmed, but around 10 to 13,000 years ago, scientists say Clovis people came into North America from a glacial ice bridge that connected modern-day Russia and modern-day Alaska. Across spark real the continent. Scientists consider these Clovis people to be the ancestors of about 80 to 90% of the modern-day First Nations we have in Canada, United States, Mexico. Pretty cool, huh? Now, 10,000 years ago. Sounds like a long time, but the landscape as well as the animals we have here, very similar. Now, who here seen any wildlife on the stay at Minnenwanka? No one? I guess you're all one big group, so if one of you saw it, you all would have seen it. But what do we have here? Let's think. Well, the smaller guys, we got squirrels, chipmunks, mice. What else? Let's move on to the size. We got elk, deer, mountain goat. We have here in the Canadian Rockies like to live up high on the peaks. One other animal we have in large abundance is horned sheep. The guys with these horns here. Now, 10,000 years ago, bighorn sheep were around 1/3 the size, larger, stronger than they are today, about 600 pounds on average. And now, the males, when they're in full charge, because the males, they need to click heads to keep the females, right? When they're in a full charge, they have roughly the same strength as 3 NFL linebackers. So they're immensely strong creatures. Indeed, you can imagine the bravery Clovis people would have had to have to challenge them with just this guy here. Now, let's say you catch a nice bighorn sheep. You gotta cook it before you can eat it, otherwise you're gonna get sick. So, have you guys here all been camping before? Come formal camping? Right on. Maybe when you went camping, you had a fire. Started it with some matches, maybe a cigarette lighter, maybe even some propane. Well, they didn't have such conveniences 13,000 years ago. And yeah, I'll just have to ask that he stays inside. Yeah, just don't want to have him go overboard or anything. As long as he's being held, it should be okay. But they didn't have propane 13,000 years ago. What they did have, however, this guy right here. Now, this very abundant here in the Canadian Rockies. It's small, it's sedimentary. When struck against the metal, it will release energy in the form of sparks. Starts with an F. What is it? Makes fire. Flint. Now, like I said, flint is very abundant here in the Canadian Rockies. Now, scientists don't actually know how flint is formed. Many different theories, however. area I find the most interesting. Millions and millions of years ago, everything you're seeing here didn't exist. The mountains were actually the ocean floor. We were all under the ocean. Now, we have a basic understanding of how mountains are formed. It goes like this. The plates of the earth, the plates are in constant motion. Sometimes these tectonic plates will collide. Push and push and push and push to create a mountain. That's how the mountains here were made. Imagine you're a tiny little sea creature who gets caught between the two plates. And years of compression and pushing, the energy from your body has nowhere to go. It's just pushed into the stone. Remember high school science. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transferred. So the energy from that creature pushed and pushed into the stone where it remained millions of years later.
Better than
That's why take a piece of steel like this guy here, strike it against it, you can see those sparks flying off.
Oh yeah.
Now, that's the energy being released into the environment of millions of years later. Pretty cool, right? And that's how fires were started on the shores of Minnenwanka 13,000 years ago. Now, I am cheating a little bit here because I have this steel knuckle. They didn't have this either. When you look out your windows though, onto the mountain, right here's a great example. You may see some patches of red or orange, maybe even yellow. And those are natural iron deposits. They act as a great substitute for steel. Find a rock with high iron content, it's a flint. You've got a fire going. Alright. I've talked a lot about how important this place was for the closeness, but also a very important spot for the modern day First Nation we have here, Stoney Nakoda. Now, where is this group from? Are you guys from Calgary, Edmonton?
Calgary.
Oh, you got the Queen shirt, of course.
They're from Calgary, all of us.
Right on Calgary. So when you guys were driving in, maybe you saw the sign pointing you off the highway to Morley. So Morley today is the Indigenous Reserve under Treaty 7 law for the Stoney Nakoda people. Also under Treaty 7 law though, Lake Minnenwanka. So right now, we are on the traditional home of the Stoney Nakoda people. Pretty cool. Now, the name Stoney is actually a nickname given to them by European people. Their original name was Iake, which means people of the mountains. Now, Lake Minnenwanka obviously were in the mountains. It was a very important spot for the Stoney because it was a passageway from the mountains into the prairies and vice versa. We're not able to see it from here, but the very eastern end of the lake, it's where the Rocky Mountains end and the foothills begin the prairies. Now, they got their name Stoney because of their unique cooking method that was observed by European people. Again, when you look out onto the mountains, all the gray you're seeing and the rock looks like orange old rock. It's actually one of the coolest rocks on earth, limestone. Now, what's special about limestone? Very good at holding heat. You put a rock this size in a fire for maybe an hour, it can hold that for up to 5, maybe even 6 hours. And the Iake people do this. So after digging a small hole in the ground, maybe taking some animal hide, turning it in the hole, you have a little makeshift bowl. Now, let's say you add a little bit of water into your bowl. Then, take your hot piece of limestone. Of course, when it makes contact with water, energy transfer occurs. As you can see, evaporation occurs. Yes, yes. And now in excess amounts, this water can be boiled. Used to create tea, stew, soups, whatever the Iake people may have needed boiling water for. Now, European people come to Western Canada, they settle, they see these people and how they cook with stone, and they decide that they'll be called the Stoney. Now, the second part of their name, Nakoda, in their language means person or friend. So Stoney Nakoda means stone person. Simple as that. Now, that method of cooking was passed on for generations, but it wasn't the only thing that the Stoney Nakoda passed on. The name of the lake itself, Minnenwanka. That is a Stony Nakota word. Now, does anyone here know the meaning of minnenwanka? I guess not. That's why you need to come on the tour today. So, a little bit off topic. Let's think of our neighbors down south in the United States. What's a state that sounds similar to minnenwanka? How about bingo? Smart cookie. You guys know your geography. Minnesota. Now, has anyone ever been to Minnesota? No? Well, on the bottom of their license plate it says land of 10,000 lakes. Now the direct translation of Minnesota, land of many waters. Now, direct translation of Minnesota, or Minnenwanka rather, spirited waters, or water of the spirits. So that must mean minne means water, wanka, spirit, spirited waters. Now, it doesn't really look like it today, because right now we have pretty much no waves, no wind, nothing. Sometimes cold air comes in from the Rocky Mountains, and the warm air mixes in from the prairies, right here in Minnenwanka Valley. We can see waves here up to 7 feet high due to these unusual weather. That's almost a foot taller than I am. It's kind of hard to imagine. Now, aboard the Alberta Explorer, the boat we're on today, this boat can handle waves of up to 20 feet high, still to the ocean. But you can imagine, if I'm a Stony Nakota person paddling along Minnenwanka, a 7-foot wave could easily ruin my day. So they respected and feared these waters and spirited. Now, I want to share with you a story now. Let's get away from the facts and tell a story. This is a true Stony Nakota legend that we have been given permission to share about a water spirit here at the lake. It goes something like this. Hundreds of years ago, long before European people had ever set foot in Canada, there was a group of Stony Nakota moving in from the prairies through Minnenwanka Valley into the mountains. Actually, it was right here along our north shore. Now, it was getting late, so they had to set up camp for the night. They went about 1/2 of the way up the mountain to set up the camp. That way, they didn't have to worry about the water coming in, getting their supplies all wet. They didn't have to worry about any animals because they were in a group. No animals were going to come bother them. So, they set up camp and went to sleep for the night. Come around midnight, they hear the sound of waves crashing louder and louder up the side of the mountain. And the wind howling louder and louder. Now, this was nothing unusual. The Stony Nakota knew these were very spirited waters, very minnenwanka. So, they just tried to shrug it off and go back to sleep. But, a few hours later, that same sound of waves crashing higher and higher up the mountain only grew louder and louder and louder. Eventually, the wind in the sky was so loud it sounded like a shriek. The Stony Nakota people couldn't take it anymore. They couldn't sleep. When they finally looked out of their shelters to see what was going on, to their immediate shock, the water level had actually risen 1/2 of the way up the mountain, right to where they were. This was very unusual. They've never seen anything like this. Now, the waves would wash up the mountain, drag their supplies to the bottom of the lake, wash up, drag a few unfortunate souls caught in the current down to the bottom of the lake. Now, the surviving group of Stony knew they had to get out of there. They started running up the side of the mountain in an attempt to flee the rising water. As they were going to the top, they could hear a faint drum beat, and they saw a whirlpool being formed in the middle of the lake. Once they reached the top of the mountain and were able to overlook all of Lake Minnenwanka, they say within that whirlpool was a creature controlling the waters. They described this creature as half man and half fish. Ever since then, Stony Nakota people did not travel on the waters or the shores of Minnenwanka without first consulting this water spirit or this lake monster for permission. Now, let's fast forward a few hundred years, and European people have come settled in Western Canada. The Stony Nakota people try to tell us the story about bad spirits, powerful spirits here at the lake. And we misinterpreted this. We think these Stony people are trying to warn us about something. They must be trying to warn us about the devil. So for many, many years, The official name of this lake was not Lake Minnenwanka, but the Devil's Lake. Yes, indeed. Now, back in the late 1800s, the Devil's Lake, not the most popular tourist attraction. People really did believe that a devil, a monster, possessed these waters. Now, there was a person who wanted to change that. His name was Norman Luxton. Are you guys spending any time in Banff for the next few days, or have been in Banff? No? Okay, well, if you ever find yourself in Banff, maybe you'll be at the Lux Cinema, that's the movie theater in Banff, or the Banff Canyon newspaper. Those were both businesses started by Norman Luxton way back in the late 1800s, and he wanted to expand his empire up here to the Devil's Lake. But, like I said, no one wanted to go on his cruise business because they believed the devil was in the water. So he wrote in his newspaper, the Banff Canyon, "Citizens of Banff, Alberta, I, Norman Luxton, want to prove to you that the Devil's Lake, or as I like to call it, Lake Minnenwanka, is completely safe for travel for tourists aboard my cruise. I'm going to go up to the lake by myself, and I'm going to capture and slay the lake monster that the Stony Nakota say possess these waters. If I do not return within 7 days, send a search party to recover my remains." 1 day goes by, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days. On the 7th day, conveniently in time for the next edition of the newspaper, he writes on the front page, "Readers, rejoice, for I, Norman Luxton, have returned, and I bring with me the wretched, the vile lake monster of Lake Minnenwanka. If you wish to see this beast for your own eyes, come on up to the lake, and for only 5 cents, that's right, 5 cents, I'll let you view this wretched animal." Does anyone want to see a picture of what it looked like? Yeah? Alright, alright. Got it right here, yes. Maybe I'll throw my mask on and we can walk around and show you. I present to you the lake monster. Half man, half fish, and like a weed. Yes, at the Buffalo Indian Trading Post. Yeah. This guy, now, today, is on display in Banff at the Buffalo Indian Trading Post. Mm-hmm. So did you guys all go to the museum then? Oh, you did, eh? Okay.
Oh, that's what's this?
This is the lake monster of Lake Minnenwanka.
Oh, they have the lake monster, right?
Yes, yes. Pretty creepy, right? Check that out. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. The wretched lake monster.
The small one.
Pretty creepy, right? Yeah. Yeah. So, people, they come on up to Lake Minnenwanka in a crate covered by a blanket. We see something over there or no? Oh yes, there is a campsite just over there. Although there's no people there right now because it's temporarily closed for bear activity. Yeah. But you probably saw some tape in there. That's the closed tape. Where was I? Yes. So people coming up to Lake Minnenwanka in a crate covered by a blanket was this lake monster. Pretty creepy, right? Super creepy. Now, people pay their 5 cents. Norman Luxton lifts the blanket and quickly drops it down again. Now, as I'm sure many of you people do, back then they had questions. Hey Norman, is this real? How'd you capture it? How'd you kill it? What does it eat? Norman, come on, Norman. And he would say, people, I'll answer all your questions in due time. Sorry buddy, you gotta stay back here. Thank you. I'll answer all your questions in due time, but I'm running late for my boat tour. How about you guys come aboard? For only 25 cents, I'll tell you everything you want to know about the lake monster, how I captured it, how I killed it, and I'll chat a bit about the natural history and the indigenous history as well. Only 25 cents, which may not sound like a lot today, back in the late 1800s, a stay at the fanciest hotel in Banff, the Banff Springs, about $2 a night. Today, you're looking at closer to $500 a night. So 25 cents just to talk about the lake monster, very expensive. Now, does anyone here think that this monster was really in the lake at some point? He's a believer. No one though? All skeptics? Okay, well, in fact, many years after Norman Luxton had died, his daughter was in his house going through his belongings, and she came upon a stack of receipts. There was one receipt in particular that stood out. It was from a company called Make a Monster Japan. Sorry, buddy. You've got to go back over there, buddy. Sorry. Make a Monster Japan. So, they'd acquired the rear end of a yellowfin tuna, the top portion of a monkey, some crane's legs, some elephant bones, and to top off the horror, what appears to be Donald Trump's toupee. Yes. So this is many animals stitched into one abomination, one fake lake monster. So this guy's a fake, but we have Norman Luxton to thank for why, she knew, but we have Norman to thank for why we have cruises at the lake today, 100 years later. Very, very cool. Now, that only means one thing. If this lake monster is fake, that means the real lake monster, the Stony Nakota tried to warn us of all those years ago, is still in the water today. Ooh. Yeah. All right. You've noticed Captain Kenji has shut the engines off. Right now, we're just floating on Lake Minnenwanka. I want you guys just to open up your windows, enjoy the sights, sounds of nature. I'll shut off my mic. Feel free to go out on the back deck, grab some photos, and in a few minutes, we'll start back up and head back to the docks. Thanks for listening so far.
Only 8 people.
Ito lang tayo. Wala tayong punta sa lake.
Ayan yung monster? Oh, it's fake.
Yeah, full throat, round trunk.
It's fake?